Hey there, it's Elisa, the Half Asian Tarot Queen, and yeah, I kind of was on a tear on New Year's because I did like 3 readings for New Year's Day. I did one for the day, and it was pretty harsh. And so then I did one for the year, which kind of gave a little bit more perspective and was like not quite as not quite as harsh. And I did one for the whole decade too, which was an interesting long range perspective. But you know, it was a lot of readings. And when I did the reading, I was like, I'm gonna come back and do one for the Divine Feminine next, you know. And so I think that's what I'm doing today. And I'm gonna I haven't busted out this deck yet, which is one of my favorite decks. It's a Mystical Shaman Oracle. And so I'm going to start with that. And I just pulled 2 cards out. The Seer and the Crow. So, hold on one second. Okay, sorry. I've been staying with my mom and dad, and it's the holidays, so, you know, there's always stuff going on in the background. But anyways, so the Seer and the Crow. So it's really interesting because, like, as I was saying, I was gonna check in with the archetype of the Divine Feminine and see where she was. And so I've done a couple of readings around the Divine Feminine storyline. And what compelled me to do it initially was I had this weird dream about Selena Gomez, who I don't really have a lot of awareness about, or I didn't, you know, when it started. And I'll put a link to that reading, the first one, here, so you can kind of reference that. But it was interesting because I didn't know anything about her other than that she had lupus, which is something that resonates with me personally because that's something that I, you know, identify with. And then I kind of learned more about her story. She had these songs that were released that kind of told about like her story, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like she's kind of resonating with the storyline of the Divine Feminine, and and that was kind of what led me on this whole path of, you know, and periodically checking in with the Divine Feminine, because I was realizing that that was resonating with this storyline that kept surfacing on, you know, the channel. And so, you know, if you've been following this channel, you know that there's a number of threads, there's storylines that kind of are intersecting, and I try to thread them together. There's a video on the main channel that kind of explains the organization. But what's interesting, the reason that I was compelled to do the reading today is because there was a development in the story of Selena Gomez, in the sense that it seemed that some truth had surfaced with regard to her story. And so I was like, oh, I should check in with the Divine Feminine and see where they're at. So anyways, that's where we're at. We're checking in with the Divine Feminine. I'm using the Mystical Shaman Oracle, which I love this oracle. I feel like it's super wise and super tapped in. So I pulled 2 cards right before the Seer and the Crow. And it's interesting because, okay, so the Seer, this is sort of like seeing the world through your mind's eye, you know. And so this is just sort of like trusting your intuition and following that impulse, because, you know, there's wisdom to be gleaned from that if you can tap into that, you know, because this is tapped into all that is, and it's super wise. And, you know, so there's answers here for you, you know. And then the Crow is just sort of like, this is a card of like a truth coming through, you know. And so it's interesting because this really aligns with my whole impulse for doing this whole reading, which was like, I was like, okay, it seems like there's this truth surfacing with respect to the story of Selena Gomez, who, you know, for whatever reason I felt was embodying that energy of the archetype of the Divine Feminine right now. That was what compelled me to start doing this series in the first place of Divine Feminine readings, which there's a thread about that as well. And then this truth surfaced about that today. So it's just like, maybe there's something that's shifting with this storyline right now. I should check in. So it seems like the cards are kind of confirming that impulse. So I'm going to go to another deck now. I'm going to go into the Wild Unknown Tarot deck to get some overall energies for the reading and see where we're at. But yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I think I don't know if I really need to go into the whole Selena Gomez story other than, you know, that it was an impulse to check in. You can look that up on the internet if you want, but it definitely seems like, you know, she's been involved in this situation involving her, you know, her counterpart, a karmic partner. You know, that's been playing out for some time. So perhaps there's some development that's happening with this energy right now. So we shall see. All right, I'm gonna keep pulling. But if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Elisa. I started doing this not that long ago, and I have organized the videos on this channel in a sort of less than standard way. And there's a video on the main page, and I kind of alluded to it. But basically, rather than organizing the videos according to zodiac sign or date, I'm just organizing them according to storyline. So, you know, the story of the Divine Feminine and the evolution of that archetype is one of them. So, you know, that's a thread that I will for sure reference at the end of the video. But there's a number of other storylines, and I try to reference them within the videos, but then there's a number of playlists on the channel where this is organized. Okay, so as far as overall energies go, it's funny because, like, I don't generally use reverse cards. Like, for whatever reason, I don't have reverse cards in my, but there was two that flopped out that were reversed in this reading, which is weird. So we have the Daughter of Cups, which came out upside down, and then we have the Five of Cups, which also came out upside down, which is weird because I kind of am sort of anal about, like, not making my cards come out upside down. So I figured that was probably supposed to happen. And then we have the Five of Wands. So this is kind of a card of, like, conflict and resistance. And then we have, you know, this is like an offer of love that's coming through, but it's upside down. So it's like being blocked somehow. And then we have this card of loss, which this is like a theme that's been coming up a lot. And I think this one came up a whole lot in, it was a moon transit that happened recently, which I'll link here. I'll have to look up which one it was. But interesting because all of there's a lot of climaxing happening right now because we're in eclipse season. We're in the moment in between the solar and the lunar eclipse, which is happening soon, like in a week. But the Five of Cups is a card of loss, and it's oftentimes it'll show like 2 cups that are still standing and 3 cups that have spilled over, and there's like this focus on what's been lost, you know, and not really seeing the opportunity of the 2 cups that are still left, you know. So it's just sort of like whatever moon reading that was, it was all about sort of like triggering a shift in consciousness by being super intentional about shifting your focus from the loss to, you know, the opportunity that still remains. And but it's interesting because this is upside down, which is, to me, is kind of an indicator that perhaps that's happened, that someone has had some sort of shift in their consciousness where they're no longer focusing on the loss, and they're starting to move forward. And so that's actually a good thing, you know. So I'm gonna go back to my Bianco Nero deck, which is it's a black and white deck, so it's like in moments of like conflict and chaos, which this seems to indicate, like it's nice to have the clarity of the black and white deck, because yeah, I feel like this is a super grounding deck, which I go to a lot. So I'm gonna pull some more cards from this to see if we can get some more clarity on what's going on. It seems like yeah, well, in the case of Selena Gomez, it seems, you know, if I'm just generalizing, it's like she had been kind of oppressed under the weight of a certain situation, and, you know, she released these songs which kind of put her truth out into the universe. And then I think there was a response to that happened today, which in a sense kind of confirmed her truth, even though that wasn't the intention. So it's almost like the situation that was kind of blocking her, or the archetype of the divine feminine, is coming to light. Like, that's kind of the overall energy that I was getting, you know, that compelled me to do this reading. And so that's interesting, because, you know, it's like this, it's upside down. So it's just like whatever this loss is, there's a shift in perspective that's in process, and this is causing some upheaval and conflict, is what I'm getting for the overall energies. So I'm pulling some more cards and seeing what we get with that. But yeah, I mean, it seems like in the case of, you know, Selena Gomez, it's like she didn't really engage the conflict. She like kind of turned the energy on herself and focused on herself. Oh my gosh, this is super weird. And so she's kind of had a really good response to her the songs that she released, you know, and so she's kind of reinventing herself in a really positive way. So she's turned that energy on herself and is turned that into like a real positive opportunity for herself, which is, you know, super inspirational and beautiful. And so, okay, at the bottom of this deck, I've got the Six of Swords. So this kind of indicates someone who's moving on from a bad situation towards something better. And what's also interesting is that I got another upside down card here, which is weird because, like I said, I'm kind of anal about like not having reversed cards in my deck, but for some reason there's all these reversals showing up in this reading, which is really weird. So I've got the Nine of Pentacles, I've got the Star, and I've got the Eight of Pentacles. So this is interesting. It's the Nine of Pentacles is like kind of like a swinging single card. It's someone who's just really independent and in their power, and like they're abundant on their own, and they're not really depending on anyone, and they're just kind of, you know, doing it their way, you know. And it's what's also interesting that I've just noticed is that there's like a crow in her hand, which is this card that came out, you know, the card of like the truth being revealed. So it's like this swinging single woman who kind of focused on herself and did her own thing, and she's just got the truth on her finger, you know, like she's not really, you know, making a big hullabaloo out of it. She's just there, and the truth is there, and it's on, you know, it's landed on her finger. Like she's got the truth on her side, you know, which is cool. And what's also cool is that that kind of resonates with that whole storyline of Selena Gomez that I was talking about while I was shuffling, that, you know, she didn't really engage the conflict. She just like focused the energy on herself, and now she's having this moment of like ascendance, you know, because like things are going positively for her, and her work was well received, and so it's going well. And then the next card I have is the Star, which is a card of wishes coming true, you know, of manifestation and like karma. And so it's just sort of like, yeah, so this is the divine feminine, you know, she's just like in her power. She's abundant. She's doing it on her own. She's got the truth on her side. Her wishes are coming true, and she's just working hard, you know. This is a card of making a dedicated effort and just like nose to the grindstone and getting stuff done. So, you know, that's all super positive. And then the next row we have the Ten of Cups, which is a card of like wishes coming true. You know, it's abundance, fertility, happiness, but it's card of family, which is interesting because that's falling right under this independent swinging single card. So it's almost like maybe this is something that she aspires to, you know. And then there's this blocked love right over that. So that's interesting. So it's almost like, you know, this is the only thing that's missing now. It's just this blocked love. And then the next card I have is the upside down card, which I'm like, well, how did this happen? You know, the Emperor, but upside down. And this is interesting because there's this whole thread around this Emperor card, and it's called Dynasty because there's like another thread of this that's called Phoenix, and it was like this King of Pentacles, and he was trying to offer this love to his divine counterpart, but it was being blocked by this toxic situation. But there was a situation where like that thread Phoenix kind of was slowly evolving into this thread Dynasty, and the action that was being required for him to ascend to this Emperor status was he was needing to offer this love to his counterpart and right some wrong, and then in doing that he was going to ascend. This was like the spiritual lesson that he needed to learn to ascend to this Emperor status. So it's interesting because this is upside down and this is upside down. So it's almost like this hasn't happened yet, or it's being blocked from happening. Like he wants to offer this cup of love, but there's something that's blocking it. And he's falling right under this wish coming true and this conflict. So it's almost like, you know, this is their wish, but it's being blocked by some sort of conflict, which is interesting. And then we have the Queen of Cups falling right under this. So this is like, you know, a balanced, you know, emotionally balanced, offering from, I mean, a woman who's like operating from her heart space, but, you know, from a balanced place, a loving, nurturing queen, and she's falling right under this, you know, change in perspective. So it's like there's this work that's being done, and this change of perspective that's in process, but it looks like it's not, it hasn't totally manifested yet, you know. And so we have on this road this blocked Emperor, and we have this loving, nurturing queen, and we have this beautiful outcome of like total abundance and fulfillment. But there seems to be some conflict that's blocking it. However, this is all happening in the context of some truth being surfaced. So perhaps whatever it is that is blocking this from happening is coming to light. You know, that's that's what's the action that's happening, which is interesting because that really resonates with the story that's happening with Selena Gomez right now, you know. So I'm going to pull 3 more. Oh my gosh. I'm pulling 3 more cards to see if I can get some guidance about how we might move through and evolve from these energies. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. This is wild. Okay. So, oh my gosh. Okay, this is crazy. So I got the Ace of Swords, the Five of Swords, and then the Emperor. So a lot of air energy. But so this divine feminine who's got the truth, you know, in her hand, and hold on, my mom's calling me. Okay, sorry. I'm like I said, I'm staying with my family right now, so there's a lot more hustle and bustle. But so anyways, I'm getting back to, so there's this divine feminine, and you know, she's like focused on herself, and like good karma has come back to her from doing that and from not engaging the conflict. And she's got the truth in her hand, right? Well, the card that falls out on top of her is the Ace of Swords, which is a card of truth. So it's interesting because it's like almost like she's the one, like she's the divine counterpart, like she's the 10 of Cups, you know, that's the actual truth, you know, but that's been being blocked, and that truth is coming out, you know. So that's really interesting. And then we've got this emperor who's upside down because he has this wish, but there's all this resistance and conflict that's blocking it. And the card that falls on top of that is the Five of Swords, which, you know, this is a card of like a lose-lose situation where someone has like engaged this situation and they're just going to win at all costs. So they've gotten their victory, but it's like a hollow victory because it's not in alignment with karma, and like other people have gotten hurt, you know. And so it's just sort of like this divine feminine has kind of like lost the battle, but sort of won the war because, you know, she's sort of lost to this karmic partner. You know, she's not with her divine counterpart. You know, that's not what's happening right now. Like, it's being blocked. But at the end of the day, like, she kind of wins because the truth is the truth. Like, you can't change it. Like, you can try to, you know, block it, and, you know, you could win at all costs. You know, you can, you know, seduce this masculine, divine masculine, and control him and like pin him in, you know, but you can't control someone's heart. So like his divine counterpart is who it is, you know, like you can't change that, you know. It just is what it is. So it's just sort of like there's been this win at all costs, but, you know, at the end of the day, that's not his wish, you know. So it doesn't matter. Like, nobody wins, you know. Everybody loses because it's just not what's meant to be. And then what's crazy is, so we have this, you know, Queen of Cups who's just been kind of like working hard, you know, but there's been like this change of perspective, you know, because we're no longer focusing on the loss. We've changed perspective, and we're starting to focus on moving forward, you know. And with that change, we get the Emperor again, but this time he's right side up. So it's just like by having that shift in perspective, we go from here, this divine counterpart, to the same card but right side up. So that turns the situation right, you know. That's what makes it right, which is interesting because on the channel, like I was saying, there's this whole thread about this King of Pentacles, and it's called Phoenix, and he's just been this like downtrodden king who's just been like nose to the grindstone and has been oppressed by some sort of toxic situation, which, you know, it turns out later on in the thread is, you know, he's been blocked from love with his divine counterpart, and he has to like right some wrong in order to offer his love, and then he ascends to the emperor. So he goes from this to this, you know, and then it becomes the dynasty thread because he's learned the spiritual lesson. He ascends to his emperor status, and then it's like the foundation for this dynasty, which is a whole nother thread, you know. So this is all pretty interesting stuff. And I'm going to pull, I think, from the Sacred Traveler Oracle just to get a message to end the reading on. But this is like, this is pretty interesting. Like, this definitely seems like a big turning point in the storyline of the Divine Feminine. So yeah, for whatever reason, I felt compelled that I needed to do this. And it looks like it's a big day for this Divine Feminine archetype today. That's what I'm getting. So I'm going to pull from Sacred Traveler, see what we get, and then I'm going to pull also from the Yogic Path because it seems like that might be a good OMG. Okay. Okay, so the card that comes out is Stepping into Power. You are strong beyond measure. So it's like, totally goes along with this storyline. This guy's getting flipped, stepping into his power, and like overcoming this freaking toxic situation that's been plaguing, like, there's a whole thread called Toxic Situations because this toxic situation, there's also a thread called Stalkers, which speaks to this storyline where this toxic situation has been recurring on the channel forever. So this like is like amazing because it's just like some huge turning point is like in progress right now, which is super exciting. I mean, it is the new year, and yeah, like people are ready for change, I guess, you know. But to end the reading, I'm going to pull from this new deck that I just got for the holidays, the Yogic Path. And yeah, it has beautiful artwork, and I've been loving this deck, and I'm just starting to get to know it, so I'll probably end up reading from the deck. Beautiful cards, because I'm just learning these cards, but the messages have been super beautiful, and you know, this deck is all about the Divine Feminine, which is, you know, the storyline we're tapping into, so it seems super appropriate for today to end here. Okay, so we get Kriya. Super beautiful card. Okay, I'm going to pull the book out and I'll read it to you while I show you the artwork to look at. 21. Okay. OMG. Okay, so the card Kriya means effortless effortless flow. Life feels like a river that you are graciously floating down with ease. You are on the path to your Dharma, highest purpose, and doors are opening for you. One connection leads to another, and things are moving at high speed, Kriya. Don't feel overwhelmed. This is how life is meant to be experienced. When you are in Kriya, everything requires far less effort. The universe is propelling you in the direction of your Dharma and providing you with assistance to fulfill the very important role that you play. You no longer have to push, but rather can surrender to the greater forces at play. Keep up with the flow and don't lose sight of your greater goal, uplifting the vibration of this planet. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. It totally goes along with this reading. You know, and this Divine Feminine, she just focused on herself and creating her own abundance, and you know, she had the truth on her side, so it's not like she was trying to overturn the situation. She wasn't focused on it at all, you know. She was just focused on herself, and she had this wish, but you know, at the end of the day, she was in alignment with the truth, so she didn't have to do anything, you know. She just had to be in her flow, and the universe would take care of it for her, you know. So this is like, really beautiful message, you know, of karma and, you know, truth and just following your intuition. Because if you're in alignment with the truth, like, don't worry about it. It's going to work out, you know, like that's the message. So it's a beautiful message to end on. And we'll check back with you later.